about this thing. I mean, this is the pop-top thing. I didn't know what this did until I went in my room last night, and boom. That was a lot of fun. What else did I get? I got so much stuff here. What did I get? We all got this, right? That was great. Beautiful. And then these were the training tracker socks. So have you ever had to chase after your team to get something done, to learn something? Now you get to train after them. You could run with the socks on. So I got that. That was really good. The calendar. This calendar was amazing. The OPS people, in case I forgot it was going to be 2020, they gave me a calendar. So make sure to get those calendars. And then, of course, the Ultimate Bear. The Ultimate Bear. Now, I got to say, Ultimate software is very close to my heart. I get to do a lot of programs for them. But the bear is going to be great for my new niece. So I've got my present. I'm all set and ready to rock and roll. So this is good stuff. Well, what I'd like to talk to you about today is solutions-oriented leadership. And this could be a little distracting, so we'll take these off. But solutions-oriented leadership. See, how many of you out there are great at finding problems? Anybody? Raise your hand. Great at finding problems. See, my kids could do that too, but let me ask you this real question, because I know I'm here with people that have a heart that's as big as this. See, because your heart has got to be this big to be the sheriff, doesn't it? Right? So how many of you here deal with difficult people every day? Raise your hands. How many of you are difficult people? Keep your hands up. All right, I knew there was a few of you out there. Well, today we're going to have to learn how to engage more effectively and more real with people, because people are more transparent. People want that engagement. They want that connection. So we've got to learn how to connect and engage at a different level. We've got to learn on how to do these things at the top of our game. Now, I was at the top of my game this morning, and then I went to go shave, and I turned around, and I was scared. I saw this in my room. Did anybody have one of these? I thought I walked into Jumanji for a few minutes when I got here. So that was a little bit tempting. But I did just get back from Tokyo. I was spending a little time there. I spoke with the IBPSA in Palm Springs. And then I got to go to Tokyo and speak to the Army. And I was speaking to the Army, and I was talking to them about the crab mentality versus the bamboo. Now, the crab mentality, a lot of people in this world have that mentality. And if you know anything about crabs, when crabs are caught, they put all the food in the bottom of a trap, and the crabs go into the trap. Well, when all the food has been eaten, the crabs try to crawl out of that trap. Well, there's a lot of crabs that don't like to see those other crabs get ahead and get out of the trap, so they start to grab onto that crab, and they drag that crab down. They will not only just drag each crab down, they will eat those crabs until they eat all themselves alive if you let that happen. There's a lot of people out there like that also, that have that crab mentality. They see you getting ahead. They see you working on yourselves. They see you showing up at SHRM conferences and improving your technical abilities, improving your people skills, learning about the things that you need to do to get to the next level. And they're just not willing to get there. See, right now, you are in the top 10% of all the people on the planet, because most people, when they graduate high school or college, never attend a continuing education seminar, webinar, nothing. So you're in the top 10% right now just by being in this room. So give yourselves a round of applause for being there. Now, the difference is the bamboo, and I got to go to the bamboo forest. And in the bamboo forest, they literally water the bamboo seeds each year. For the first year, they water those bamboo seeds and nothing happens. The second year, they water them, nothing happens. The third year, same thing. Nothing happens. The fourth year, same thing. But in the fifth year, within 1 week, that bamboo grows to over 90 feet tall. Now, the question really is, if they didn't water that bamboo at any time during those 5 years, what would have happened to that bamboo tree? It would have withered away and died. See, that's the reality. We are either moving forward and growing, or we are staying the same, but really we're going to be moving backwards. And life is going to be passing us by. So we've got to constantly improve ourselves. We've got to constantly work with our team. We've got to constantly work with our families. Some of them we have to educate. We've got to become transformational leaders. Transformational leaders are people that have a vision, and then they make sure that they give their team the skills, the opportunities, the tools that they need to accomplish that vision. That's one of the roles of HR. As you heard Susan say, HR isn't just about compliance anymore. We're not just about keeping people within the rules. We're about growing people. We're about making a difference. See, the key to a leader, a solutions-oriented leader, is they're not looking to develop followers. They're looking to develop other leaders. So the question is, are you looking to develop other leaders? Are you going to be a little bit disruptive? Because today I'm going to talk to you about some disruptive techniques that I use, especially on my family. They're always the testing market. It's a lot easier. You can't get in trouble that way. But these disruptive methods get people to think, they get people to change, and the results are absolutely amazing. See, there's some disruptive transformational leaders. You all know them. Bill Gates and Steve Jobs. They changed the way we operate today. I'm using my Apple computer. I remember when my kids got me the iPod Shuffle. Does anybody remember the iPod Shuffle? I returned it because it was too small. I wanted something big. I said, I had the big boom box, so I thought, how can I use this thing? I'm going to lose this. Now I've got the little one that I run with. Well, they were very disruptive leaders. They forced their will. They had a vision, and they brought people along with the vision. They learned to say something that most of us don't say, and I didn't learn how to say it until just recently. A friend of mine came to me and said, you lost a couple of $1 million. You should have done this deal that I told you about. I said, what are you talking about? I said, remember I told you about that deal, and you said, it's not going to work? This guy made a couple of $1 million. He said, you need to learn the words, what if. See, what if brings you into possibility thinking. What if makes your mind think, man, what if this works? What if everybody gets along? What if we can hire the perfect people for our team? See, because if you're not thinking in those terms, you're not going to track that, because that's how your brain works. We're going to talk a lot about your brain today. Now, there's two other great leaders here that develop things, Mark Zuckerberg and Jack Dorsey. How many of you are friends right now with someone that you would never have spoken to in high school on your best day? Raise your hands, right? And now you're all connected with them. You can't wait to see them. It's one of the great things about being a speaker. I get to travel around the world and connect with people. I was just at the World Cup in Tokyo watching the All Blacks of New Zealand play against Namibia, and I was there with a friend of mine from Manchester, England, someone that I met at a conference. We connected. He said, I want to join you for your birthday. So that connection, that engagement is what we need. They brought that to us. Or how many of you have ever gotten that package from Amazon Prime? It's like Christmas every day, right? So now if you feel bad about yourself, you could always just send yourself a gift, right? So it's a beautiful thing, but they felt things need to change. They need to be disruptive. They need to be different. And the one thing that each and every one of these leaders did is they understood the word of commitment. What is it that is a commitment? By making a commitment, what is that? Now, I know a lot of us have made those commitments. Usually it's on January 1st, and we break them on January 2nd or 3rd. See, but what a true commitment is doing the thing you said you were going to do long after that happy, fun mood has worn off. It's putting that hard hat on and just dusting yourself off and making it happen. It's going to work every day and doing the things that people don't see you're doing. My daughter always says, it's like, Dad, people don't know the backstory. They don't know really what goes on behind the scenes. See, a lot of people don't understand what you do every single day. The time that you guys have to put in. The overtime that you have to put in just to keep things moving along the right way. That is what a commitment is. So today I'm going to ask you to make a commitment. In fact, I'm going to ask you to make a commitment over the next few days. And that commitment is to start to learn. And I have a mantra for that commitment. That mantra today is, how can I apply this? How can I apply this? See, when you start asking yourself the right questions, your brain is going to give you the right answers. So how can you apply this? When you hear some of the stories that I'll share with you, I want you to ask the question, how can I apply this? Because it may not make sense to you. But I'm going to show you how I utilized it to transform a team in Argentina that we just did a deal with Microsoft and Amazon to bring the cloud to Latin America. And when I went to work with the team, the first thing they said was, you don't understand the culture. You don't understand the culture. People would show up at 10 and leave at 4. I said, I don't care about the culture of the country. I care about the culture of the company. We get to create our own culture. We get to change it. We get to make things different. It's really up to you. It's all about a choice. And the cool part is, HR plays a major role in controlling the environment and culture of any organization and making sure that culture is moving forward, making sure people are all on the same page. So the question I'm going to ask you today and for the rest of the conference, as you go around, I want you to ask, how can I apply this? John gave you 5 goals that you should have on engaging, meeting more people. And it's true. A lot of people just sit with the same people, and that's great. You come to this conference so you can see your friends, so you can see the people that you met last conference. And that's what keeps people coming back. But you know what keeps people moving forward? Other people's experiences. Because there's someone in this room that is failing at something, and there's someone right over here that is succeeding at it, and all you got to do is connect and do the same thing. See, the wheel has been invented. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. It's been invented. It's a pretty good thing. Works really well. But now we have flat tires that are flat run tires. We have tires that operate in extreme cold and extreme heat. The basic premises work. We just need to improve it a little bit. So that's what we're going to be looking for over this next few days. Small incremental improvements. If you improve 1% a day in 365 days, you will be 365% better. Who in this room would not give me all of their money right now if I could give you a 365% return on your investment in 1 year? Everybody would be throwing the money right up here. Well, guess what? You get to do this. You get to do this every single day on yourself. People ask me sometimes also, Rick, you're always up, you're always motivated, it seems like nothing bad happens to you. Bad stuff happens to me all the time. All the time. I'm wearing a tie just because bad stuff happens. It's my breast cancer tie because my wife, Jacqueline, passed away 7 years ago from it. After 8 out of 10 years, we were married from that. So bad things happen. The difference is you've got to give yourself permission to feel bad. I know I'm saying that. Sounds crazy, right? Give yourselves permission to feel bad, but the only difference is I feel bad for an hour. I feel horrible for an hour. I give myself the biggest pity party on the planet for an hour, and then I dust myself off and move forward. Why? What is the other choice? What's the other choice? Dust it off, move forward. Bad stuff happens all the time. The difference is you learn how to roll with it. You learn how to move forward. And that's the honor to the people that didn't move forward. That's what we can pay them honor, is by moving forward and helping others. That's really the ultimate goal. Well, there are 5 traits of a solutions-oriented leader. And the first trait of a solutions-oriented leader is they look at the problem and they see the best possible outcomes. So they're always looking at what's the best thing that could be about it. They're not looking at the doom and gloom. Everybody could do that, and misery loves company. Have you ever met people like this? Well, I had a really bad day today. This is what happened. Oh, you had a bad day? Let me tell you about my day. It's like who could top each other for the worst news? And it attracts the same news. That's the problem. Because they're looking for that. It attracts that information. So look at the outcomes. The second is they think systematically and strategically. Things are planned. As Zig Ziglar used to say, no plan is a plan to fail. You've got to have a plan in place. You've got to know where you want to go. If I am going to fly from Wisconsin to Hawaii, would I just go west? I've got to compensate for other planes, wind direction. Things are going to happen. So I've got to compensate for those things. So you've got to have a plan, a strategic plan. You have to have a plan A, B, and C. Because there's a guy who's going to show up. Some of you have met him. His name is Murphy. Anybody meet that guy? The guy with the law. So when you plan everything out, Murphy's showing up. So we've got to plan most of our things. They are accountable and don't make excuses. See, I know when I was 15, 16 years old, maybe you were like me. I said, I can't wait to get out of my parents' house so nobody's going to ever tell me what to do again. Anybody like me? Right? You couldn't wait to get out of your house? See, because when something went wrong, what was the first thing that happened? We had a guy in our house. His name was Yehudi. And Yehudi was the guy who did everything that my sisters and brothers never said that they did. So my father would say, well, it must be Yehudi did it, because nobody else would claim that. Why? Because we got punished and sent to our rooms. So now we're 15, we're 16, now we're 30, 40, 50 years old. And when something goes wrong, we don't want to accept responsibility because we don't want to get punished and sent to our rooms. It's that same mentality. We're just children in big people's clothes. I call it MFTP, mother, father, teacher, preacher. These are the people who said children should be seen and not heard, don't speak until spoken to, rich people are thieves, all the stuff that you heard that's not true. See, but that's our references. So we've got to change those references. When I have someone that does something wrong, I get their blinders on right away. Why does a horse wear blinders when they're running in a race? To keep focused on the finish line. I want to keep them focused on the finish line. So I'll say, I don't care what happened. What are we going to do to fix it and prevent it from happening again? I'm big on preemptive strikes. I can't play the blame game. I can't saw sawdust. I can't unring the bell. I can't turn back time. But what I can do is fix things and prevent them from happening again. So ask yourself, I want to hear, how can I apply this? Can we all say, how can I apply this? Hey, I love you in the front row. How can I apply this? Because you've got to start asking yourself that question. They resist problem-oriented questions. How many of you have somebody that comes in and says, I got a problem? Or worse is, you've got a problem. I used to practice monkey management. Did anybody ever read The 1 Minute Manager Meets the Monkey? The monkey's a problem. You're either into care and feeding the monkey or you shoot the monkey. Being here at the Kalahari Lounge, I'd shoot the monkey right now. Now, what is it? Someone comes in and says, you have a problem. I don't have a problem. If I have a problem, I may need your help. And if you have a problem, I'm willing to help you. What can we do to make this better? Because people will dump problems on you and they walk away and then you got to handle it. How many of you had that happen yesterday? Raise your hands. Okay, yeah, just a few of you out there, like 100. Because it happens on a regular basis. So we want to be predictable about it and resist those problems. And last, they always take the collaborative approach. They always take the collaborative approach. Because they understand that you can't do it all by yourself. Nobody can. It takes a team to accomplish goals and objectives. It took an amazing team to put together an event that has over 1,300 people and 120 amazing sponsors. It takes a team to do that. No one person could have accomplished it on their own. And if they did, they wouldn't be here today. They'd be somewhere else. So you've got to be able to accomplish those things. But you want to focus on the solutions. You want to focus on becoming a solutions-oriented leader. Well, it didn't always start for me like that. See, because this is the father of transactional leadership. My dad, Norman Goodman. Way before Norman Schwarzkopf was around, this was my father. He would tell you all the stuff that you wanted to hear. You'll never go to college. All you'll do is chase skirts and play hockey. All right, so I played hockey at Kent State University, and I got a scholarship. But it was always negative, negative, negative. Well, if you're learning from negative, negative is going to come out because that's your MFTP, that's your references. Well, I was traveling around the country playing ice hockey, 12 years old. I wanted to be normal. I wanted to go to parties with my friends and stuff, and that wasn't happening for me. Well, one day I was laying in my bed, and I was supposed to go on a long tour around the country, and my father said, you've got a game to play. And I said, I don't want to play anymore. I want to be like my friends. I want to go out. I want to go to the parties and stuff. And he said, you're not going. You're going to like it. You're going to do it. If you can't, then you must. If you must, then you will. Well, at 12 years old, you can't really understand logic like that. And then he told me a story. See, my dad, when he was 16 years old, was a world-class baseball championship player. He was on the championship team in New York City. And he had a game over the weekend, and my grandparents said, you're not going to the game. You're coming up to the mountains with us. Well, he was frustrated about that. He went up to the mountains. When he came back on the weekend, on a Sunday morning, he woke up and he could not get out of bed. He had polio. The polio had hit him, hit his legs, went down his legs. He couldn't move. He couldn't walk. Many of his friends passed because they got the polio that went up the spine, and they were in iron lungs, and they just passed away. Well, 2 days after my dad got polio, they came out with the vaccine. So if you might imagine the frustration that he was living his sports life through me. And he sat there and said, if you can't, then you must. If you must, then you will. So if you ask my children, what do Goodmans not do? They'll say, quit. It's the first thing they always say. If you ask them, is their dad have another motto? They'll say, yeah, he's wasted more money in worse places. We can't change that motto. We've been working on it for years. But they just know that I don't quit, and I instill that in everybody that I work with, that we don't quit, we don't give up, and we don't know the word can't. See, but my transformational journey didn't start like that. It started like this at 24 years old, graduating from Logan University, going to see my first patients in the office, I went through over 200 front desk assistants in my first 2 years in practice. People would come in to me and say, "You must be tough to work for," or "Who's the new front desk flavor of the month?" That's what they would say. Now, I didn't think it was them. I didn't think it was me. I thought it was them. I started to write this book. And the book was My Team Sucked. 10 rules that turned them into rock stars. But here's the reality. I was the one who sucked. I was the one who couldn't communicate. I was the one who was losing people. You don't go through 200 people in your first 2 years by being an effective communicator. There's got to be something wrong. I think it was when Bobby slammed the door and said, "If you ever speak to me like this again, I'm out of here." I swear on my children's life today, I don't know what the heck she was talking about, but she must have been right. So I started to travel around and I started to ask doctors and physicians and assistants. I want to know, why do they keep their staffs forever? Why do they keep their staffs, and next thing you know, the staff is willing their children to work with that physician also, and they're staying there for 30 years. And what I found out was that there's no such thing as a bad student, only bad teacher. Teachers say and student do. For my favorite philosopher, Mr. Miyagi. So I started to interview people, and I started to find out what those successful traits were. And like I said, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. I just started doing the same thing with them. And the first step is self-analysis. Are you the problem or the solution? See, most of the times we're going to look and find out we're the problem. We are key performance indicator number one, ground zero, root cause. That's us. It's us. Look in the mirror every day. You know where it lies, and you know, here's the cool part. You can make that change. You can make that difference. See, I found out also, employees don't quit the job, they quit the boss. And there's a big difference between a boss and a leader. See, nobody likes working for a boss, but everybody loves to play follow the leader, right? We all learn to play that game. There's people that are magnetic. We want to just be with them. But I also found out one other thing, that many times we're putting out fires. We're so busy putting out fires that we're not thinking in solutions. We're operating out of crisis most of the time. And when we're operating out of crisis, we can't see forward. I was just working with my roommate from college, called me up, and he said, I'd like you to work with my team. And he knew what I had done in Argentina, and he said, could you come in and work with my team? We got 900 employees in Ohio, and they've got one of the largest cleaning companies. They do all they do Jacobs Field, which now has changed to Progressive Field. They change the name every week. They've all the federal buildings, all the Case Western Reserve, Cleveland Clinic. They handle all those. He said, but I need you to come in and change my culture. I just bought a new building. We got a spa in there. We've got, a workout gym. We got all this. It's going to fix the culture. I said, no, it's not going to fix the culture. You're going to have the same miserable people in a new location. That's all that's going to happen. So we went in and I started to interview people. And I asked his DFI. See, I don't have receptionists. Because when people think of a receptionist, what do they think of? Person answers the phone, right? But we know they do so much more than that. We have DFIs, directors of first impression. That's the first impression that we have when you call the office. In my clinics, if you called Neurology Associates Group and they answered, Neurology Associates Group, helping you return to health, I'd say, help yourself. We want to make sure that people are up and on. Well, I went over to Cynthia and I said, I called her up. I called her 100 times. She never told me her name. I'm the secret caller. So finally, I called one day, and she answered the phone, and I said, what's your name? She said, Cynthia. I said, that's a beautiful name. I said, why don't you use your name? She said, well, I'm just a receptionist. I said, you're just a receptionist? You are the most important person in the company. You're the first person that every single person hears who calls that company. If you don't answer the phone right, you can mess it up for everybody else. Have you ever gotten a phone call from the irate phone caller? They don't say, irate caller on line 1, please pick up, right? They're in your face. But guess what? If you got that irate caller, you get to disarm them. If you said, hi, this is Cynthia speaking, how can I help you? Or it's a great day here at OSI, how can I help you? People are going to be disrupted. You're going to shock their brain. They cannot know what to say. They go, great day, well, let me get myself together here. How could you be mad at that person? Now, Cynthia gets to be the helper. She gets to be the heads up for that salesperson or the vice president. Say, hey, Mary Jones is on the phone. I think she's a little bit upset. Now that person's ready. They're not getting slammed right away either. So that position is so important. But you know what? Nobody told her it was important. And I asked Cynthia, who is in charge of you? She gave me 4 people's names. I said, you got 4 bosses? They didn't even have an organizational chart. They didn't know who could talk to who. So I started from ground zero because it all starts with communication. Well, Ronnie, my roommate, would then say, well, we used to do it like this, or it's not going to work because this happened. And I had to then put those blinders on. Remember those blinders on the horse and get him focused back. There was a guy running in the 100-yard dash in the Montreal Olympics. He was winning the race. He turned around for 1 second, and a guy passed him by 1/1,000th of a second. When he was interviewed later on, they said, what happened? He said, I took my eye off the finish line. How many of you are taking your eye off the finish line when crisis happens? Or when someone key leaves your department and they're gone and you think you could never replace that person? But you probably said that before that person arrived. So what are we saying there? How are we looking forward? What we need to do is not dwell on the past and start focusing on the future. When you're driving your car, that front window is a lot bigger and wider than that rear view window. And it's a lot bigger and wider for a reason, because you got to see where you're going. You're not driving backwards. But it's about your attitude and your energy that makes all the difference in the world. Your attitude is everything. There was a guy who wrote a book called Psycho-Cybernetics. His name was Maxwell Maltz. And Maxwell Maltz was a plastic surgeon in New York City. He had a woman come into his office, and she was magnificent looking, but she had a little crook in her nose, and she thought she was ugly. Well, they went to this book of noses, and they chose a new nose, and they picked out the nose, and they did the surgery, and she came out, she was magnificent. And she sued him for malpractice, because every time she looked in the mirror, she saw this ugly person. Well, it went before the judge and jury. They looked at the before and after pictures, and they threw it out of the window, because they said she's absolutely magnificent. But the mind didn't know the difference between something actually happening and something imagined vividly in great detail. It's going to make you right. If you don't believe this, how many of you are in a rush to leave at one point today? How many red lights you think you're going to hit? Or have you ever woken up and said it's going to be one of those days? Or maybe you had that mom or grandma that said bad things happen in threes. Anybody had that mom or grandma like me? Right? And all of a sudden, 1, 2, 3, they keep coming, 4, 5, they keep coming. You go, see, I was right. I knew it was going to be one of those days, right? Here's my question. What'd you ever get for being right? I've been right a lot. I haven't gotten anything yet. So if you got something, let me in on this, because I want to get that stuff too. Because your brain's going to make you right if you don't believe this. How many of you bought a new car recently or in the past? Raise your hands. Guarantee you everybody in this state was driving the same car you were. There were hundreds of them on the road because your brain was going on search to make you right. Say, hey, that guy or gal's one smart cookie. Great minds think alike. I made the right decision. Because your mind thinks like that. It's kind of like what you say to yourself. See, if some of you spoke to yourselves, some of you spoke to your friends like you spoke to yourself, you wouldn't have a friend in the world. You say bad things to yourself. I'm so stupid. I'm such a dummy. I can't believe I did this. And you know what your brain goes? You're right, you're right, you're right. Makes you right every single time. Every day I wake up, I say the same exact thing. I say I'm a healthy, vital, active, happy, and successful human being. I affirm today that all tissues and organs in my body are functioning perfectly, and that is the way it's supposed to be. I am more relaxed than ever before because I choose peaceful, loving thoughts and release my fears, worries, and anxieties. Tension is gone because I'm creating an atmosphere of ease and confidence. My mind is uncluttered because I've set specific goals and planned action steps for their accomplishment. I feel better now. Nature used the food that I eat, the air that I breathe, the water that I drink, and the rest that I get to rebuild, repair, and revitalize me for the future. Radiant energy flows through me. I also affirm today that money is plentiful in an abundant supply, and this money flows freely and constantly into my life as I render loving service to all mankind. What do you say? Oh my gosh, the line is so long, I can't find the coffee. I was even in the back. My friend Jacqueline, where's my friend Jacqueline? You got some amazing people here, not you, but my friend Jacqueline in the back. I'm standing there, and she said to me, you're going to have to sit down because you can't stand at this conference. I was just standing there, just mind my own business. I said, I'm going to stand in a little while. I said, you see Sue up there? I'm going to stand where she's standing. I love the name now, Jacqueline. That was my wife's name, so it was perfect. She was in. I said, redhead in, Jacqueline, same name. You're my buddy. Thank you. Thank you. Because we all have got to stay focused and keep our blinders. And look at this. We got the total focus. Because your attitude makes the difference. So John, come on up here a second. I want to show you something. Because John's a pretty big guy. I couldn't find Greg. Where's Greg? Is he around here, Greg? I think he skipped down on me. Told him I was going to bring him up here last night. Come on, John. Hurry up. Come on. I'm working. Let's go. How you doing, John?
Doing well.
He's doing well. He was very nervous about introducing me. I said, it's video, until the video messed up, Steve. It's okay. Anyhow, so John over here works with 4,000 people, huh?
A little under that.
Little under 4,000 people. Can you give him a round of applause? 4,000? Oh my gosh. Well, and John's a pretty strong guy. So I know that your mind affects your body. And I know that if John is up here, he's a pretty strong guy. I feel these arms really strong, man. You must lift weights and stuff, huh? So what I'd like you to do is hold your arm out. There you go. Cooperate. And I'm going to push down on your arm. I want you to resist me as hard as you can. Resist. Oh my gosh, this guy's pretty, I'm pushing pretty hard, right? All right, I am. So he agrees, I am. Okay. But here's the deal, John. You work in an environment, 4,000 people, mixed with union and regular people just like me. Right?
Absolutely.
I just got a phone call. You got a problem. Over 200 people just walked out on the job. There's a union walkout. They're having big problems. And you're here. And you don't even have your phone ringing. Hold your arm out here. Hold it strong. Right? There we go. Okay, I'm only kidding. You can hold it out. They're all there. They came back to you. They came back. I promise. I promise. Oh, there you go. See, when I tell him that in his mind, he starts thinking these thoughts, it goes right through your body. So if you start your day and you have a fight with that spouse, significant other, and you walk in and they say, check your brain at the door, guess what? That brain goes with you everywhere. You can't change your thoughts, but your thoughts become your reality. And when you're in this mode, when you're thinking bad things, you are non-functional. Has anybody had any criers? Okay? They're gone for a good 2.5 hours. Send them home. Let them come back the next day because they're mentally gone. They can't function a high level. So your job is to keep people focused, to keep people up and on, to keep them in that spirit, because even if you're not feeling it, it doesn't make a difference. My mother could be yelling at each and every one of us. Lori, Ricky, John, the phone ring. Hello. Anybody have that? She was on stage. So when you're working, the moment you go through that door, you're on stage. The moment you pick up that phone, you're on stage, because people don't care that the dog ate the cat. They don't care that something's bad. All they care about is themselves. How are you going to serve me? And you can't serve others if you're not 100%. You're awesome. So I'm going to give you the Solutions-Oriented Leader. Only went to number 1 on Amazon April 16th. It was pretty good. There you go. Thank you, John. Now, I know a lot about mindset, especially because I had to deal with this team. See, in 1995, a friend of mine called me up and said, hey, you should go back in the practice. I said, well, I've already done that before. He said, I'm going to send you a whole bunch of patients. My parents told me the same thing, didn't send anybody. See, but my friend is a guy coined the phrase, show me the money. His name's Harold Lewis. He represents about 175 NFL players. That's why I know Packers fans are the best traveling fans in the NFL, bar none. 100%. Now, I know this because the Rams were the worst team in the 90s. So as we won the first 4 games and started to lose every single game for the next 4 years, and they would play the Packers, there were about 80% Packer fans in the Dome in St. Louis and 20% St. Louis fans. So that's how I knew you guys were such great traveling fans. And I've been to the Packer Hall of Fame and all that good stuff, and John Madden's cruiser. But Mike Jones came into my office one day at 6 o'clock at night. At 6 o'clock at night, the Rams would break. They would come to my office, and I would go pick up my son at about 4:30. My son was 5 years old, Tom, so I thought it'd be pretty cool if my dad did this. So I said, sure, I'll be the doctor for them, and then got the St. Louis ambush, not realizing how bad the Rams were really going to be. Well, we got this guy named Trent Green. Trent Green was supposed to take us to the promised land. He's going to win us the Super Bowl. Everybody's excited. And then Trent Green went down in the 3rd preseason game with a season-ending knee injury, and my players walked through the office that day, but especially Mike Jones came into my office. My son was standing right there, and I closed the door, and he said, Doc, we're done. We're going to have another losing season. We got no quarterback. We got nothing going on. This is it. Well, I'm from New York, and I don't know if you could tell, But you could take a New Yorker out of New York. You can't take the New York out of the New Yorker. And I have about this much patience and like less than that as a filter. Well, with my son sitting there and a player going negative on me, I looked right at him and said, let me tell you something, Mike. I said, unless you could be positive in this office, I cannot treat you anymore. I said, we have real patients here, like people that really need help, and this is an area of positivity. If you can't, then you must. If you must, then you will. He looked at me like I was nuts. I said, I can, I must, I will. And I said, I'll be back in 5 minutes. You let me know whether you still want to remain a patient in my office. My son looked right at me like I was completely nuts. He was this tall, Mike was this tall, and I'm this. He said, Dad, how could you speak to him like that? He's a giant. He can crush you. I said, you know something, Alex? People are people. We all put our pants on one leg at a time. I treat people and I work with people to get them well. Mike plays football. That's his job. We're both the same. I can, I must, I will. And I drilled this into his mind. I'd like you to all do something with me right now because you know what? It's early. I want to get the blood going. So everybody please stand up with me. Let's go. Stand up. There we go. And what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to repeat after me because there's going to be times when you don't think you can do things. There's going to be times when you're going to be facing these giants and your job is to crush them. Your job is to control yourself and your mind to focus forward. So I'd like you to repeat after me. I can. I must. I will. That's fair. Come on. You guys won on Monday. Are you still hungover from it? Let's go. I can. I must. I will. A little better. One more time. Give it to me. I can. Must. I will. All right. Give yourselves a round of applause. Awesome. Have a seat. Well, what they didn't know was that there was this quarterback, and his name was Kurt Warner, that nobody wanted. There was only one person who believed in Kurt Warner. That was Dick Vermeil. He was it. He fought every single one of the coaches. He had a sense. It's called Jiminy Cricket. Anybody have a Jiminy Cricket? You know, that's when you changed your multiple choice test from the right answer to the wrong answer. All right, we've all been there. It's called your gut. I say to my staff all the time, what does your gut say? I surround myself with 10 absolutely amazing ladies because they're smarter than I am. And I say to them, what does your gut say? And they'll tell me, and I go with the gut because it never lies to you. That sixth sense always is true. Well, it was true with him too. And this team became the greatest show on turf. And in the Super Bowl, with 7 seconds remaining, this is what happened. Steve McNair dropped back to pass. He threw the ball to Kevin Dyson. And on the 1-foot yard line, Michael Jones grabbed on for dear life and made the winning tackle. One of the most famous, is now in the top 25 most famous plays in Super Bowl history, known as the tackle. Well, I was wondering, what is the end of the story? You ever wonder what's the end of the story sometimes? Well, I got a phone call from my attorney, and he said, listen, you got a lot of players, and my brother-in-law is a sports agent. Could you invite a bunch of players to play in this golf tournament? I said, sure, I'm going to call a bunch of players. And I called up Mike and a few other guys, and my attorney called me and he started complaining. He had to go to the airport to go pick up a VIP. My attorney knows absolutely zero about sports. He knows nothing about sports. So I said, who you complaining? Who you got to go pick up? He goes, some guy named Tommy John. I said, you're going to pick up Tommy John, the World Series pitcher? He won with the Yankees. He's got Tommy John underwear. They even got a surgery named after him, Tommy John surgery. I mean, I was running down here. I pulled my groin. They didn't say Rick Goodman groin pull. I know, it's HR. I'm sorry, that's bad. They named the surgery after him. So we're out there, and we are playing golf. And we're out there, and he's telling stories about George Steinbrenner, and he's sharing stories. And finally, he looked at Mike Jones, and he said, I got to ask you a question. He said, there's 7 seconds left in the game. What were you thinking? I thought to myself, this is my time. He said, see this guy? You see this guy? I thought, all right, he's going to tell him what a great guy I am. This guy could be the single most annoying individual you've ever met. Now, my kids say that, but I didn't believe my kids until he said it. He said, all I thought in my mind was, I can, I must, I will. And I grabbed on for dear life. I don't remember what happened after that. See, your words are powerful. You never know when you're going to say something to someone that's going to make a massive difference in their life. And you know what? So many of you here said, I am never going to speak like my parents. And now you say something and it's your mom and dad coming out of your mouth. But your words are so powerful. The control that you have with your words and engaging with people on your team and engaging with people at your companies can make all the difference in the world. Now, there's 3 keys to creating a solutions-oriented organization. And the 3 keys are simplicity, speed, and efficiency. See, because you're going to have to transform your thinking. You've got to optimize your assets. Your assets are every single person in this room. It's the information in your head. It's the people you know, your families. And you've got to increase your connectivity. You've got to increase the speed at which you connect with others, and you've got to increase the speed at which you do business. That's the key, is keeping things simple. Now, sometimes I've also found out that organizations have not fully explained to their people what they're all about or what they do. So I am the guy who speaks in, I call 3rd grade, 2nd semester level, so my college professors understand what I'm talking about. Because people would come into a doctor's office and they'd impress them with their vast knowledge, and people would walk out and have no clue what was wrong with them. So I keep things simple. So the simplicity in the business model is the what, who, and how business model. What is it that you do? What do you do? Who is your target market? Who do you serve? And it's not everybody. When I hear that, I know a company is going to fail because they're not honed in. And how do we get the what to the who? How do we get what we do to our target market? It's as simple as that. If we can explain to people, this is what we do, this is how we do it, and this is who we do it for, they're set. So many times I've been in an elevator, they call it an elevator speech, and they'll say, okay, what does this person do? And you're not quite sure what they even do, and they're not quite sure what they do either. So we want to explain it out to them and get it forward. That's a successful business model. But more importantly, people do business with people who they like, who are like them. You'll buy a product from a friend of yours, even if it costs a couple dollars more than going to the local discount place. Because that's what we do. So you've got to engage people and become their friends and find out something about them. And it's all about connection and communication. Now, the golden rule of communication would say, do unto others as others do unto you. How many of you believe in the golden rule? Raise your hands. Stupid rule. Would you treat all your children, all your employees the same exact way? Some need a kick in the pants, others say, get out of my way, let me do my job. I got Goodman's rule. Do unto others as they need to be done unto. Everybody's different. So this is my family, this is my son Alex. My son Alex knows everything. Just ask him. He will tell you. My son Alex decided he wanted to go to Hollywood. He was going to be an agent until he found out that he didn't like agents. So he decided he wanted to be a manager, but he wasn't quite ready. So I put him in position to succeed. I got him to work with a friend of mine named Lori Wyman, and she's a casting director in Florida. So she does Burn Notice and Magic City and Glades and Miami Vice and Bloodline, all these things. So he worked with her for a summer. Then he got another job for a summer with a reality TV show. He said, Dad, I'm graduating University of Missouri. I'm ready to go to LA. I said, go ahead. I paid for school. You got a car. I'm out. Some people may say that's crazy, but I say my dad didn't pay for anything, so I'm my dad. Well, sure enough, he went out to LA, and he got a job with a company called LA Talent. And he was working with big models, and then he started working with kid models, and then he was working with print kid models. And my son was doing time. How many of you know people that are doing time? You know, they're showing up, they punch the clock in, they do their time, and they leave, right? We all know people like that. People can tell when you're doing time, but he wanted to get that 1 year on his resume that would look good. Well, my assistant Shirley was doing time also. When my wife Jackie passed, I had 8 internet companies that do continuing education for HR and construction and accounting and all that good stuff. And I started wandering the earth like Cain in Kung Fu, and I decided finally it was time to get back to work after 2 years. Well, Shirley had run my businesses almost into the ground. So I said, Shirls, we need to do what brought us to the dance. We need to get back to things. We need to start to record. We need to do videos. She said, well, I can't do that because you don't have the right equipment. I said, Shirley, did you ever go on a field trip when you were in school? I said, we're going to take a field trip to the Aventura Mall. Well, we went to the Aventura Mall. We went to the Apple store, and she was upset. She had that passive-aggressive look on her face. She was pouting. I bought the biggest, fattest Mac you've ever seen in your life. Put it in the car. I'm excited. She's got to show up to work now. She was like the guest assistant in my own office. Well, my phone rang, and it was my son, Alex. Dad, can you talk? Yeah, what's up? Dad, I just got fired. I said, that's great. I said, Alex, you were just doing time. I said, Shirley's sitting right next to me. She's doing time too. Now you know what you don't want to do. She really was doing time. Now, I could have said to my son, what are you going to do? You better call your mother. I'm not paying for this. And he would have gone, dive down. I had to get those blinders on. It sounds disruptive. Some of you may think that I was a little bit nuts. But then my son got a job with a company called Levity. Levity owns all the improvs in the United States. He represents some of the biggest comedians on the planet now. A guy named Sebastian Maniscalco, anybody ever hear of him? Or Bert Kreischer, Lonnie Love, Jeff Dunham. He also represents this cool guy named Kel Mitchell. Anybody ever hear of Kel Mitchell? Keenan and Kel from Good Burgers. So last week, before I went to Tokyo, I got to go and hang out with this young lady on Dancing with the Stars. That's because I was disruptive for my son. And his client, Kel Mitchell, just went to the next level on Dance with the Stars. So I get to hang out with Christy Brinkley and sit behind the judge's desk. Not too bad. My daughter called my son and said, stay in the green room. Dad's going crazy on Facebook. I was. She was smart. My son would have had a heart attack. He came out. I'm standing with Mary Wilson, introducing my son to Mary Wilson. Now, Mary, this is my son, Alex. He's a manager. You know, why not? I'm dad. I'm the guy who's going to go out there and engage. I'm going to sit at every single one of your tables. I'm the guy who went around to every one of the meetings there, to the committees, and saying, where's Blackhawk? You know, where's this place? I want to find out about people. I want to step out of my comfort zone. Because unless you do, you don't get to see the spice of life. You're not going to fully enjoy this convention unless you meet 5 new people. You're not going to. And those 5 new people may completely change your life. Now, my daughter's a whole different story. When Jackie was 6, she said to me, you know, you spend so much time with your son, as dads do. He's behind the bench. He goes to the games. You need to do something with Jamie. You need to maybe take her on a trip. So I decided I'm going to take my daughter on a trip for a couple of weeks. But I have a disease. It's called OTT, over the top. So everything I do is like 10 times bigger. So the 2-week trip turned into a month. And I decided I was going to take her from St. Louis to Chicago to London to Paris to Rome, Florence, San Gimignano, Chianti, Madrid, Israel, back. And I had a plan. I was writing a book called A Dad's Guide to Traveling with a Teenage Daughter, Generation Y. Like, why would you do it? Crazy. 16 years old, mini me. So I wanted to capture this. And at first I thought, I'm just going to kind of threaten her a little bit. I'm going to tell her she can't bring her phone and see what she says. Well, we were at my friend's office because I was shooting a video, and I just brought it up. I said, yeah, I think I'm going to take Jamie away. I'm not going to bring her phone. And he said, oh, yeah? He goes, I'm just going to bring her in the other room and shoot some film of her and see what she thinks. He goes, you can't come in the room. Well, I found the film because I haven't seen it in a while, and this is what happened.
Caitlin,
I cannot wait to go away with my daughter with no technology. I think that's what we need to do. Get rid of the cell phones, get rid of the computers. That way she's not going to go into our room, text, tweet, Facebook, and not talk to me. I could just see us right now. We could go to wineries. I could take to all the museums of the world, show my favorite restaurants in Paris, in London. We could go to Israel. We could do everything and just spend that time together. But if we have those cell phones and we got that technology, she's just going to be tweeting away, Facebooking, talk to the hand. I don't want to talk to you. You're being annoying. I can't deal with that. So I absolutely have got to get her away. If it's just me and her in Israel, in Paris, or London, I'll take her to Buckingham Palace. She'll see the Queen. We'll do all kinds of neat stuff. I've never been to Versailles. We could do that too. It's going to be a lot of fun.
I still get nauseous when I hear it today. Mini me. And I'm telling you, this is truly my brain here. Well, I didn't tell her that I was going to do it yet, but I kind of fiddled with it. And the night before I was getting ready to leave my convention in Indianapolis, I got into the cab. I wanted to get to St. Louis a day before to get her ready. She'd never been to Europe. And my phone rang as I got into the cab, and I picked up the phone, and I got, Dad, no offense. Has anybody ever gotten a no offense line? No offense, but I want to hang out with my friends. I paid the cab driver $5. I went back into my hotel. I changed my flight. I called her mom and said, she won't need her computer tomorrow. I got to the airport, and when we got to the airport in St. Louis, I said, Jamie, my phone's not working. Can I borrow your phone a second? So she gave me her phone. I said, good, now you got to speak to me for the next month. I got your phone. 16 years old, me and her traveling. Well, everywhere we went, we were out till 1:30 in the morning. It was kind of crazy, and I would say, I kid around and say, Jamie, we need to get in before 1:30 today. And one night, we go into this restaurant in Florence. Right before, I threw my back out. And I said, I can't sit on these stools. They just had bar stools. I said, I need a chair, my back, I can't even stand. So we went around the block. There was another restaurant I'd been to called Giostra. And I walked into this restaurant, I sat down. Within 2 minutes, a woman walked over to my table. She walked over, she pulls her skirt up, and she goes, Doc, look at my knee. This was the patient that was from double HE, you know where, okay? You never wanted to see this patient in your office on a good day. She was a complainer, about 76 years old, and driving you nuts. And here she is in my restaurant with her skirt pulled up above her knee, showing me her knee, and these two people behind us are completely losing it. My daughter's now having a conversation with the two people who are losing it, and she says, oh, you remember my boyfriend, and he runs this one restaurant I will make nameless because I ate at this restaurant in London, took one bite of the meat. It was tough. I sent it back. They told me I ate too much, that I had to pay for the whole thing. And if you go on TripAdvisor, you'll know the name of that restaurant. So my whole family knows about this. I've been complaining about this $200 meal for years now, and here is the owner of the restaurant. She couldn't have said anything worse. But then she did. She looked right at my daughter and said, Doc, is this your girlfriend? My daughter went, ugh, that's gross, this is my father. These people behind us are laughing, they're crying. My daughter turns around and she says, hey, you should come out to dinner with us. We're going to Dad's favorite restaurant tomorrow night. Now I have 8 perfect strangers going out to dinner with me to my favorite restaurant in Florence on my last night because my daughter invites everybody. Now we are walking down the streets of Florence at 2:30 in the morning. My daughter grabbed my hand and said, Dad, we make a great team. I hit a grand slam home run. I knocked it out of the park. It was unbelievable. When we got home, I said, we're going to both journal. Let's see what you got. Well, what she wrote was better than what I wrote. She's funnier than I am. And this is what ended up happening because I took a shot at removing technology, because you'd agree that technology is probably pretty good, but it also interferes with our connection and with our communication. Tweeting and texting does not give you the emphasis or the real deepness of a conversation. It takes away the tonality, the intonation, everything is gone. Well, because I removed technology, this is what happened.
How about this? A journey with your daughter overseas, and you get to spend a month together, seeing the world, seeing the sights.
The book is called Jamie's Journey, and it's Travels with My Dad.
And this was a 24-day trip and abroad.
Jamie's Journey, Travels with My Dad.
That was the biggest catch. It was like, oh, a trip to Europe. Wait, with your dad. Wait, no technology.
And when I came back and we both wrote and we journaled and I looked at the stuff that she wrote, it was so amazing that I decided this is not my book, it's Jamie's book.
I don't know what I'm going to do without technology. I always run to my phone, text my friends about how annoying my dad's being. How am I supposed to just face this annoying person for those 3 weeks?
And as I spoke to parents around the world, they had the same exact feeling and the same frustrations also. So that's where the idea came from, to just unplug from technology and connect with my daughter.
So great things can happen when you are disruptive. Great things can happen when you do something different, because it's about the energy that you bring. It's about the energy you bring to the system and how you engage people, how you connect. What are you going to do differently? I've got a friend, I call him the king of connection. His name is Doug Weber. Doug Weber makes sure to connect with each and every one of his clients on a regular basis. He hangs out at St. Louis Cardinal games drinking beer. He comes down and takes selfies with me at Dolphins games. Every year, he takes his 30 best clients out and connects with them. He engages with them. He cannot walk down the streets of St. Louis without people knowing who he is. He was just in Africa. He was hanging out with Maasai warriors, and then he went on safari, and this is what he did on safari. That's Doug. See, Doug will do anything to engage and connect with people. What will you do? How will you engage and connect with people? Will you step out of your comfort zone? Will you meet 5 people that you don't know? Because it's not comfortable, but guess what? Will you risk a yes? Will you risk a yes? See, some people are afraid to do things. And fear stands for false evidence appearing real. They don't want to make the call. They don't want to do the other thing because they don't want to get rejected. I don't look at it as rejection. I look at risking a yes. I'm risking someone saying yes and agreeing with me. And here's the deal. If you don't ASK, you won't GET. You got a 50-50 shot, right? What's the worst thing that can happen? Someone says no, you are in the same spot you were 30 seconds before. They say yes, you went to the next level. See, Doug has the ability to confront. It's as simple as that. He's willing to ask. Your ability to confront is directly proportional to your ability to be successful. The higher level of confront you have, the more successful you'll be. I know every one of you has been in a position once where you said, I'm not going to ask them. They're never going to say yes. There's no way they're going to do it. And they did. And you kicked yourself and beat yourself up because you couldn't believe they said yes. Why didn't I ask them before? This was so dumb. Why did this before? What's the worst thing that could happen? You're right there. Well, he also believes in something else, and it's called the morning huddle. And I love the morning huddle, see, because a lot of the people you're working with today that are working, you know what they think you're doing? They think you're partying. You're having a great time. The reality is you're here to learn. You're here to grow. You're building yourselves up. But they don't see that. So in the morning huddle, it happens Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Some companies just on a Monday and a Friday. But in that morning huddle, it's 15 minutes. And we get together, and a team leader gets together and says, here's what I'm going to be working on this week. What are you working on? What do you need help with? Is there anything that I can do for you? And then we break, just like Aaron Rodgers getting out of the huddle. Then on Wednesday, here's what I got done. Here's what I'm working on. You need anything from me? It makes the leader available and visible, even when you're not there. And on Friday, hey, what did we get accomplished? What did we do? Do you need any help? This is what we got going on next week. It's not a meeting. In Argentina, Juan called me up and said, Rick, we can't do this huddle. It's an hour. I said, make it a coffee huddle. When the coffee's done, the meeting's done. Now we limit it to 15 minutes because that's where it should go. But you've got to connect. How are you connecting and engaging with people? I know people don't like meetings, but if you make them effective, if there's an outcome, they'll be all in. It's when the meetings are a complete waste of time that nobody wants to be there. So restructure them. Make mini huddles so you can personally connect with people. And then use check back. See, because we already discussed a little that some of us are still in that 15-year-old mindset. If you tell me what to do, I'll say, you're not my mother. You're not going to tell me what to do. I'll show you. I remember Jackie gave me one of the best words and told me the best things because she knew I couldn't be told what to do. So she would say, can I make a recommendation? I go, okay, go ahead. Am I going to say no to a recommendation? So sometimes you got to know how to speak to people. Well, check back is the best delegation tool you could ever have. It's not check up. See, I know if I'm checking up on you, you're going to think that I don't think you can do the job. Instead, it's check back. So I may give you a task and I'll say, when can I check back with you? Now I get out of your way. I was the type of guy who would give you 10 things to do, go back up in my office for 2 seconds, come back up and give you another 10 things to do. I drive you nuts. And there's something called the zone of the flow. You've all been there. When you're in the zone of the flow and someone interrupts you, you can't get back to that mental spot again. So when I'm doing check back, I'm now putting the ball in their court. I'm saying, hey, when can I check back with you, John? Now he says you could check back in a couple hours. I get out of his way. Here's the key to check back. You must check back. Each and every one of you has had an experience where someone said, I want you to drop everything you're working on right now. You did, and they didn't use what you did for them a week, a month, or a year, ever. And you said to yourself, the next time, I'm not doing it. So you've got to check back and follow up. it is a great delegation tool. See, the reality is knowledge is not power. It's the application of your knowledge power. Most of you know exactly what to do. The question is, are you doing it? You really know, and if I gave you a little kick in the pants today and move you forward on doing it, then I did my job. Well, how do we bring this all together? Well, Neutrona is my case study in transformation because this was the team where I sent out my book. My team sucked. And Luciano called me up 10 minutes later and said, Rick, my team sucks. I need to meet you at Houston's on Monday. Not even his partner. His partner sent it to him. And when I realized that Luciano was me when I was young, he was a wild man. He wasn't communicating effectively. People were ducking for cover when he would show up. And now, he is my greatest student. He calls me up, and people are in shock that he's so good. He even called me up on New Year's Eve, and he said, I want to thank you so much for all you've done for my team, my leadership. I said, I didn't do anything. He said, my whole team has changed. I said, did your team change, or did you change? And I knew it was him. He changed. He knew it was him. Because when he changed, everything changed around him. He became a solutions-oriented leader. It all started with a symbolic focus. Every great team has a symbolic focus. Whether it's the Lombardi Trophy or another trophy, or it's your awards, or at Lennox International, they have the Whatever It Takes award, whatever it is, but you have to have some sort of symbol. I set up a symbol for them. It was a newsletter. He said, that's ridiculous. It's a total waste of time. I know something about people. They love to see themselves in newspapers. They love to see themselves on TV. And I said, one day it will be a refrigerator score. He said, what's that? I said, you kids ever get a good score? You go bowling and you have a good score, you put it on the refrigerator, right? Or a picture, that's a refrigerator score. He said, never happened. Well, I found out who in the team liked to take pictures, who liked charity. And we delegated to people that like to do this stuff. Because if you like to do it, you're going to be motivated to do it. Make sense? But if you don't know about your team and what they really like, not just what they like at work, but what they like outside of work, you don't know what turns them on. Well, I knew what turned these people on. And all of a sudden, I got a photograph, and what they had was, they had a newsletter party. From Argentina, they're sending me pictures. They threw a party. It was a one-page newsletter. That was 3.5 years ago. Now is over 16 pages long. It shows all of their people on the team, the things that they've done, their clients, the awards they've gotten. And then I got a phone call about a month ago, and I got a WhatsApp picture right before I went in to give a speech. And this was the picture. It was from our VP of Sales refrigerator in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And what he have on his refrigerator was the Neutrona connection. And I said, who said this would turn into a refrigerator score? See, because the reality is, when we set up some sort of a focus, something that people can rally around, we make it fun, they're going to provide solutions. They're going to be productive. They're going to get involved. Well, this was a team that I work with didn't learn how to play like a team. Some of you might recognize these guys, LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, and Chris Bosh. Well, this was a picture taken before Game 6. Everybody was happy before Game 6. They thought the game was in the bag. They were going to win until they lost. And LeBron James went around telling everybody how bad they were, how miserable all the people were, and how his life was great and he was going to go away. And he talked about the fans like this, and he disappeared for 3 months. Well, he came back 3 months later, and we were at practice. And when we were at practice, LeBron James was still complaining about every single person. Not the team members, but everybody else, people that paid him, people around him, the fans. Nobody understood him. He was whining, he was crying, and my New York started getting up. Well, we're looking at this, and we're in the locker room, and he's still complaining and pitching his complaint to other people, and I looked out of the corner of my eye, and I saw his shorts sitting on the bench. Well, I walked over, and I grabbed LeBron James' shorts, and I put his shorts on, because I'm a little crazy and disruptive, and I looked right at him, and I said, let me tell you something, LeBron. I said, you are never, ever going to win a championship because you don't play like a team. You hold the ball for more time than you do. You don't share, and sharing is caring, and you're too selfish. I said, I saw this with the St. Louis Rams when we went from worst to first. When I worked on their brains and their bodies, they started to play together like a team. They transformed their minds. They started optimizing their assets. They accelerated their connectivity to become the greatest team on planet Earth. And you know what? Until you do that, you're never winning a game. Udonis Haslem looked right at me. He was the enforcer on a team, and it was one of those, Doc, you better leave. So I walked out of the locker room with the shorts on. Well, that team ended up turning into an unbelievable team, a superstar team, an Olympic team. I would say to my son, do you know how lucky we are, how blessed we are to be able to see this? Well, after the championship was won, they talked about a symbolic focus. Now, they talked about this theory. And what they did was they created a trophy, and they put notches in the trophy, a gold notch. Each time they would win, they put a gold notch in the trophy. They were not going to allow themselves to celebrate until there were 16 gold notches in the trophy. Once there were 16 gold notches, they gave themselves permission to celebrate when they won the trophy, when they won the championship. Well, 2 weeks after the championship, there was a knock at my door. All of a sudden, I got a package, and inside the package was this trophy. And I couldn't believe who sent me this trophy. And on it, it said, "Together, trust, tough, and all in." On the bottom of the trophy, it said number 1 out of 4,000. I thought, who could have possibly sent me this? I opened it up, and inside was a card. And it said, "Here's a symbol of our appreciation for your guidance and support. Hey, Doc, keep the shorts, LeBron." He was not getting them back. The next year, it was more of a happy picture of celebration and focus. See, but I know one thing. I know that your job is so important. And I know that you may never, ever, ever speak to or deal with professional athletes, but that doesn't mean your job's any less important. See, because I have a letter to prove that. A number of years ago, I did a job for the Future Business Leaders of America. Some of you know them, the high-achieving high school, college students in the country. Kid came up to me right before I started. I was going to be talking about goals, how you can achieve everything you want out of life. Kid came up to me and said, "I don't know why I'm here. My parents made me come here. My teachers made me come here. Sometimes I think about just giving it all up." Well, when a 16-year-old says that to you, you just get them right in line. I looked for teachers, counselors, couldn't find anybody. I said, "Sit right here in front of me, don't move." He sat down there right in front of me. He sat there for 45 minutes. He finally got up and walked out. I told my staff about the story, and 6 months later, I got this letter from Winterset, Iowa. And the letter from Winterset, Iowa basically said, "You know, my name is Raphael. You probably don't remember me, but I was at your conference. You talked about goals and how you write them down, you read them, you focus on them 3 times a day. Everything in life will come out if you do this." He said, "The time has come and gone, but what I believe will never be gone." Well, I called. I didn't know where Winterset, Iowa was or anything like that, and I never knew the end of the story. I was giving a speech 2 years ago in South Dakota, and I was beating myself up because I didn't know the end of the story. So I decided I am going to look this kid up. And what I find out is Raphael Jacobo was now elected to the Cedar Rapids Board of Education in Iowa. He beat the incumbent. So what did I do? I called him up on the weekend, on a Sunday, after 25 years. What would you do if someone called you? I felt like a stalker immediately. So I then photocopied the letter, and I sent it to him. And I called him again. And then I went to Iowa. I went to South Dakota. I gave this speech. And on a Wednesday, I was sitting at the restaurant. My phone rang. And I saw Cedar Rapids. I picked up the phone. And he's like, "Dr. Goodman?" I said, "Yeah, who is this?" He said, "It's Raphael." I could hardly talk. I said, "You know, I've been talking about you all the time. My kids always ask me if I tell that story. I got to know, do you ever think about me?" He said, "You know what? I think about what you said every single day. I want to thank you for that message." You never know how powerful your words are going to be. You never know how your gestures are going to fall upon someone. Somebody in this room made an impact on you, and it is your job as HR professionals to carry that forward and make an impact on others as you do. Thank you so much for having me. Have a great conference. Thank you. Thank you. That's it. That's it.